Hello everyone, welcome to FPL the Onion episode 28. On tonight's episode it's myself Shlee and joined by the usual just Nick to make the two of us. How's it going, Nick?
Very good, thanks Mr. Shlee, very good, thank you. Yeah, good to be back on. It feels like a while since we've done one of these, I guess because we didn't do one last week. And the week before that was Tom, I think, joining us. So big thanks again to Tom.
Yep.
So I think Shlee usually does this intro, and I think we haven't done this for a while. But in case anybody's kind of picking up this content in the new pre-season ahead of the new season starting, Shlee and I are just two very, very old friends, relatively old people now as well, but very old friends. Known each other for 20 something years. Both played fantasy football, I think from like the mid 2000s. Pretty much from kind of maybe a couple of seasons after the game launched, and we have both have very busy lives, both have families, but pretty obsessed with football, and used to be very, very obsessed with football management games and the like. So I think fantasy football is probably our way of kind of shoehorning some form of football management and tinkering and staying interested in the game into our busy lives. But we've somehow managed to take up more time of our lives with being a bit more obsessed about it and actually creating some content about it. And I think I just enjoy, showing up and listening to Shlee's thoughts on things and kind of bouncing ideas off him. And hopefully it makes us both better managers, but hopefully it's also interesting for people to listen to, and that people find something useful out of it as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
Very good. Yeah, and we're trying to do something weekly, aren't we? But then last week was a rare week to miss, as you said. Both a little bit busy, but hopefully back to normal. Although you are going to be leaving us for a couple of weeks to go on a lovely sunning holiday, so got a guest lined up already for that, and we'll fill in your absence and then see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing who you get on in my absence. But I think we are going to do we'll do a regular pod each week, probably on a middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday, and usually slightly longer, kind of aim for around the hour mark, but we usually end up going to about 90 minutes. But I think we might also try this season just to do a few more short videos as well. Maybe we'll get around to actually chopping up the longer pod into some more accessible videos as well. Just hopefully giving hints and tips before each deadline ticks over, and obviously just reviewing how we're getting on. And hopefully one of us will have a winning season this season. Actually, that would be exciting.
It would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, to get off to a stormer. I mean, this is one of the semi-vain things we were thinking. Wouldn't it be great if you had a good season or part of a good season, then you can document it and then watch the video back when you're 65? That'd be really sad. And speaking of sad, we're going to do a really exciting new feature this week for the first time, aren't we? Which you touched on there, which is guess how long the episode is. So what do you reckon, Nick?
I'm going to go for an hour and 11 minutes.
Okay. I am going to go an hour and 27.
Wow.
And in about an hour, we'll see who has won.
Yeah, and in an hour and 11 minutes, I'll just be like, see you later.
Yeah, just cut the cord. And you're right to do the league code shout out as usual, please.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So for those listening on the audio version, and I promise we will get a podcast sorted. This goes out on YouTube after we record it, but we'll try and get a podcast done ASAP. But the league code, and please do join our league, is TRLU7M. TRLU7M. I think we've got, when I looked a couple of days ago, we've got about 15 people in there or something like that, 10 or 15.
Oh, cracking. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we've got a decent number. We've got Paddy Parr's back in, so I'm looking forward to doing battle with them again. So yeah, Paddy, get in touch with the show. I can't remember what our email address is. I've got it written down somewhere, but I'll dig that out. I'll put it on the YouTube video. But get in touch, and maybe we can get you on as a guest.
Yep. Well, so you can just talk about how you beat him at the end of that season.
No, I just want to find out what kind of manager they are. I don't even know whether they're a man or a woman. So
yeah, exactly. Pretty good. So yeah, the aim for tonight's episode is just to go through some latest drafts we've got. Nick and I have got together two of our sort of favourites, and we didn't really say one needs to be premium, but that's how it's turned out. one of each of ours is freemium, one is 2 premiums. Then we're going to have a look through some pre-season kind of latest stats on what teams are doing with results and what players are in form. I think we'll probably just skip to the kind of teams who are massively interesting because that might take a bit of time. But yeah, someone on Twitter has done all the hard work there and put all the goals and assists in on a quite handy spreadsheet, so we can share that. And then a bit of a Twitter roundup and some sort of burning questions that if we are going to cover during the show, we can go through those before we wrap up. What content have you listened to in the last week, Nick, that you can remember? You've been doing the old Clash of the Correspondents on FPL, Planet FPL.
Yeah, right? I started with those guys this morning, just listening to Mark Southerns as the new Forest correspondent.
Was he excited? I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, he was very excited. He was great on there, and he was obviously paying tribute to them and saying that. And obviously, anyone who hasn't gone to listen to that, definitely go and listen to that. I discovered Planet FPL. Mark says the same thing, but discovered Planet FPL a few seasons ago for their correspondent week stuff because, whenever, especially for the newly promoted teams, when they come up, I don't follow the Championship as closely as I would like to. I barely have enough time to follow the Premiership, but when the newly promoted sides come up, it's really, really useful to get somebody obviously who's been going to watch the games, who been a lifelong fan of that club and follow it as obviously a supporter does. And so I enjoyed those so much a few years ago that I ended up listening to all of them. And it's just so useful because it just gives you it makes you think about players from those teams in ways that you wouldn't necessarily be thinking about. And then as the season starts, obviously they know their team better than anyone. So it turns out they're generally pretty spot on with their thoughts on the FPL picks from those teams. But yeah, Mark was really good on there today, and he was obviously waxing lyrical. It's funny because you do have to take it with a pinch of salt for all the reasons I've said, because they are supporters and they do watch those players week in, week out and see all their, see everything, particularly their highlights. But I'm not planning on having, although I think I might have Nico Williams in my latest draft. I think there's a 5-3-2 draft I've got, and also a 4-4-2 draft. And I think the nice thing about having 4 at the back is you can have Nico Williams as the 4 million defender from Forest, who's going to play and is on free kicks apparently, which Mark told me this morning he's on free kicks, but he's basically been described as kind of Trent light, hasn't he? So
okay,
I think he should be pretty good. But yeah, Mark's very, very easy to listen to, as you've always said, Shlee. So it's a good episode, that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I listened to Black Box, and that was really nice hearing him just getting quite sort of passionate about Forest, and yeah, he was obviously banging on about Lingard quite a bit, which is quite funny, and they made that joke. Maybe listen to that.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that yet. I'd listened. Maybe I missed the end of that. I thought I'd started listening to that. It was Friday night's episode, wasn't it?
I'm not sure when it came out. I've been a bit all over the place with catching up with stuff late, but the really good one I thought that sticks in the mind is FPL Wire's attacking one. I don't think they've got. I think they're working front to back. And I know everything's normally in chapters on YouTube, but it was really, really good because I thought I'm low on time here, so I immediately just jumped to the Jesus chat, and that was really interesting. And yeah, we'll come to it in a bit, but he is almost a bit of a, whether you have him or you don't, maybe makes your formation. And then it was so good, I sort of ended up in bits and bobs listening to the whole thing today. It was this morning. It was really good.
Yeah, Jesus is the one player that I don't have in my current draft, because I am definitely leaning towards the freemium. I think I'm kind of 90% on the 3 premium draft, and my 3 would be Salah, Haaland, and Kane, as we'll see. But for most of the early weeks, it was always, if I was looking at freemium, it was always Haaland, Salah, and Son. But I just think with that 0.5 difference, and just the fact that Kane sounds like he is on top form in preseason, he seems to be scoring every preseason game he plays, although Son is generally assisting him for all those. That might be, I might regret that, because I was definitely on Son for a long while, but that 0.5 makes quite a big difference to the team. And Kane is just, I was going to start with Kane potentially and then switch to Haaland, but I just like the idea of having both of them. And I think that he's going to be right on it, Kane. I think he's going to be wanting to show why. I think he's definitely going to be wanting to try and finish above Haaland in the goal scorers list. So Yeah.
late riser's reason was he's well on premium. Well, compared to Zoff and Baka, who was on it. It was a really good episode. They just couldn't really agree. Two of them were on 2 premiums, and LR was on 3, and they just sort of moved on after a while of sort of trying to convince each other, I think. But it was LR's fairly simple but convincing reason was just that just going back to the insane fixtures for the big teams and the 3 wild cards, and just thinking you're not going to have a chance to jump on them with no Europe that often. You can load up, okay. Haaland might not be a long-term pick. He might get rested. You can maybe punt on Mahrez and all this stuff. And it might be completely inflexible, although did make the good point, obviously, that you can downgrade any of those 3 to anyone quite easily and spread the cash after 2 weeks. But it was just, it's inflexible, but you've got a wildcard to solve it in 4 or 5 weeks maybe. So I don't love the idea of doing it from that point of view. It might lock in a wildcard earlier than you think, but I am a lot more tempted than I was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we'll look at it in a minute. I don't think the trade-offs are necessarily that bad. I also think, now that we've got some pretty good budget options that have emerged in pre-season, again, maybe we're putting too much stock in pre-season. In fact, that's kind of a bit of a pun again. I love the name you come up with for this episode, Shlee, the pre-seasoning. Very nice. But I'll try and use the stock joke a few more times that I stumbled upon there. But we do seem to be putting, obviously a few people are getting goals. And I think just the fact that people are playing minutes and, Chelsea looked like a bit of a basket case. I mean, Chelsea could smash Everton on day one. And then suddenly we were like, oh, actually, we've been a bit silly here and not, just believing Tuchel. Tuchel could well just be saying those things. Tuchel came out this week and obviously said some pretty negative things about the state of their preparation and how he feels going into the season. But he could be saying that because he wants the board to spend some more money, couldn't he? So we're all just taking it at face value because we're looking for kind of confirmation bias, I think. So
interesting. I haven't had time to look through the pre-season spreadsheet I'm going to share from almost any point of view at all, apart from just quickly looking at Arsenal, which was the first page. But how many minutes like Nico Williams has got, and whether well, actually, I did quickly look at the Brentford keeper situation, and it does look like Raya's been playing quite a bit. Raya, and Strakosch is not, so that's interesting. I haven't got any 4.5 keepers in the 2 drafts just because I've been scared off them a little bit, and it's either Mendy or Ederson. But I think if one of those 4.5s was nailed, that there's so many turning points with sort of drafting stuff, but that would obviously free up quite a bit of cash.
Yeah, and I think Raya as well. Raya. I looked at it. He's been matching Tony for minutes. I think he didn't play the first game, but then since then he's matched Tony for minutes. So it looks very much to me like Raya's going to be the first choice unless we hear it. I think there's one more friendly that most of the teams have got to play, and I think there'll be a lot of information that comes out of that final friendly for everyone. But I think if Raya plays 90 minutes in the final friendly, you could be pretty certain he's going to start in goal for the season.
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
am kind of leaning a bit more now. I had kind of thought of him as quite dull, which is a bit unfair compared to Raya because they're probably both pretty dull. But is Sanchez, because a lot of people just saying how good Brighton's defense is and how, particularly at the start of seasons, and the fact that Brentford's defense, there's a couple of injuries, I think, at centre back, and maybe they've bought somebody as well. So I think people saying there might be a bit too much change. I think they may even be moving from a 5 at the back to a 4 at the back as well. So that just might make their defense that bit weaker. But he does tend to make quite a lot of saves, Raya, as well. It's that catch-22 with goalkeepers where you actually want them to make saves, but you don't want them to concede. So, how do you balance that?
Well, I wasn't necessarily going to share this because we're low on time, but as you've gone 1 hour 11, I'll definitely put it in. But just on that was this pretty cool image from FPL Fraser, who has made this graph of the number of games they've played on the x-axis. So the further right is the more veteran keepers. Pickford has played the most games in the Premier League by the look of things. Current number 1, and then if they're in the green area, they're a brilliant shot stopper, and if they're in the red, they're not great. And the sort of joke that this guy made on Twitter was that's why Southampton are trying to replace McCarthy, because he, his XG performance is really poor.
That's terrible, isn't it?
Raya is just above the line, not played too many games. Sanchez is very decent, actually. Played a few more games. So obviously, the further right and the further up they go, Addison being the sort of extreme, that they're the sort of veteran keepers, played loads of games and really outperforming. Your mate Sar's incredibly high, but maybe it's a bit of an outlier because there's so few games. It's quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah, but you said still more games than Raya, though, isn't it? And I think the other keeper I was looking at was Henderson, and Suj was talking about Henderson today and talking him up and saying what a good keeper he is. It's just a shame because after that first fixture, generally their fixtures are really tough, and I just don't think their defense is, obviously it's completely unproven at this level, and we just don't know. But I had at one point thought, you think if you have a 5 million keeper like you're going for and a 4 million keeper, you could switch to 2 4.5s, and then obviously if there is an issue with Raya and he suddenly Strakosha comes in and that's it, at least you've got your other 4.5 until your wild card. So I had been potentially looking at maybe having Henderson and Raya, and they don't tend to rotate amazingly well though. But I think I'll definitely be wild carding before game week 8. Game week 8 would be the very kind of latest that I would do it, given looking at the fixtures. But it's just that 0.5, isn't it? And it, when you're making the trade-offs we're making to try and potentially go with a 3 million draft, that 0.5 does make quite a big difference. For me, it could be the difference between Kane and Son, for example, if I think Son's the better option. So,
I agree in the most part, and things will probably change in a week as they have done in the last 2 weeks. But the 2 drafts I've got 1 mil in the bank in one and 0.5 in the other.
Oh wow!
Not
okay.
I don't know. Maybe just I think I'm struggling a little bit with. I don't massively like any 5 to 5.5 defenders a huge amount. Like I know Cash is sort of popular, and Perisic if he gets fit, great. And then midfielders, I'm not really on sort of 6.5, 7, 7.5s. Rashford's not really crossed my mind too much. Can't really think of many others. It's sort of everyone's banging on about the 8 mils, aren't they? Or Martinelli and down. So I think sometimes the price points are not that easy where you think, oh great, I instantly know what to do with that million. Anyway, we'll see in a bit.
We'll see. I'm sure I can. I've been looking at it a fair bit, so I'm sure I can suggest.
Yeah, I would really like that as one thing if do forget in the mode to suggest what you do with it, because I still think the 0.5 is quite handy, especially on the 2 premium, because as we've said, if Haaland and Kane do something massively opposite and there's a big switch and you're on the wrong side of the swing, then that'll be quite useful.
No, I agree. I just think that I'm struggling to not see ways to use it that I think could be potentially season defining, even though they won't. They absolutely won't be. It was funny because today, Andy's Patreon channel, though he's now kind of using YouTube memberships instead, and actually everyone's moved across to Discord rather.
Right, sorry, I think we're back. I was just kind of waiting for something to tell me I was on pause, but that'll probably be awkward 2 seconds. But we've been offline there for about 15 minutes. My internet decided to die, I think. So anyway, you were just about to tell us about Andy's Slack channel, I think, Nick.
I mean, I was midway through an absolutely hilarious anecdote, and now I have no idea where I was in it. But let me try and resurrect it, because it's been 4 seconds for you guys, but 15 minutes for us. So yeah, Andy's Slack channel has moved across to Discord, and this guy today posted a team that had Darwin Núñez up front, but it had no Trent in defense. It had Virgil van Dijk in defense. So I was just like, I think you should downgrade Darwin Núñez to like Anthony Martial, and then you can have Trent again in defense, and you'd have another million to spare elsewhere. And then he responded back saying, yeah, the whole point of that team was to try and get Núñez in it. And I was like, right, I didn't get that at all. So.
Right, okay.
But it was, the anecdote was on the back of, to remind us, Shlee, rather than everyone else, the anecdote was about me always having suggestions on other people's teams. So I'm sure tonight I can probably embarrass myself with some terrible suggestions for you as well. So
yes, helping me to spend my 0.5 on 1 mil. Yeah, please
Indeed.
do.
Exactly.
But before we get onto that, sorry, there's a lot of admin tonight. Rank aims for the season, because this will be the first time we chat before the season, probably on a podcast. So I was thinking of a rank that you'd consider being good, and a rank that you consider like being ecstatic. What would you say?
It's really funny because I've probably listened to him about 3 times, but listening to last year's winner Jamie Piggott on a few different pods, and I listened to him being interviewed by James from Planet FPL last week, and I think James is actually a really, really good interviewer. He comes across as sounding very prepared, but also very natural with it as well. And he also tried to be, obviously listened to Jamie on a couple of other things and tried to be slightly different from that, ask slightly different questions, but still covered it all. But just really interesting because Jamie was kind of just saying, well, I just, I thought when I got to that position, would I remember being top 10K or even just outside it, or would I regret the fact that I hadn't gone for it and tried to win it? So it's just funny because I know you and I have discussed this a few times, that if you found yourself in that position, he was around say 3K or 4K or something like that, and from there thought, I'm going to go and try and win it. I don't know. It's so easy to say now that he did actually win it, but he could easily have finished kind of 20K as well with some of the moves that he made, taking out Trent and Salah and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think I'd just be pleased I'd be absolutely delighted, I think, with being top 10K again. I think I was really pleased that I was in that. Again, none of this stuff really matters that much, but the fact that I just scraped into live FPL's kind of top 1,000. Was it top 1,000 or top 10,000?
You scraped. Oh yeah, top 1,000. Yeah, you're like
1,000.
906 or something like that.
Yeah, which given that I haven't had, I kind of joked. I sent a message to Ragaboli just saying, "Is this because I said that I'd tweeted saying that I donated?" And he came back and said, "No, but thanks." But yeah, I think if you can be consistent in this game, I think that is a very fun thing to be. I mean, maybe it doesn't sound very fun, but I would be very happy again with another top 10K finish because I haven't had too many of them, so it'd be good to do that again.
What about good? What would you be mostly happy with? 50K, or would that be a bit disappointing?
No, I think I'd be I think I would be kind of mostly happy with top 10K. That's kind of what I'm going for. I think anything outside of that, I probably would be a bit disappointed given where I finished last season, kind of 3-3, I think it was. So I think ecstatic would be like top 1,000 because that's kind of what I felt I could have done last season if I just maybe played the end of the season a little bit better. So ecstatic would be top 1,000 and kind of very happy would be top 10K. How about you?
Yeah, definitely a different answer based on I think my last three, without looking at something like 105, 98 and 103K. So they're all consistent, but they're all not anywhere near what you did last season. So I think I would be ecstatic with top 10K. And probably happy/good would be top. Well, I mean, top 50K is sort of the next. I don't know. Top 75K is probably a bit of a specific answer, but I definitely would like to get inside top 100K, but also kind of really beat what I've been doing the last 3 seasons, given the time we're putting into stuff and hopefully getting a bit more engaged. But I do think part of the reason I've slipped is just because there are so many decent managers out there, and it's really hard to keep up with them. So yeah,
it's funny though, isn't it? Because my prediction for this season for both of us is that we'll come on each week and we'll talk through it, and I will be constantly trying to make you take more risks and take a hit and whatever else, go for a riskier pick, and then I don't think you will, because I don't think that's in your nature, and I think you'd be very resistant to it anyway. But I think you will be proven right, and I think you will have a better season than me for that reason. Because do you remember in the past when I'd say I'm going to take this hit, or I'm going to take a -8 to sort my team out, do this, that, and the other, and you'd always be like, well, I don't know, taking Trent out from -8 seems risky, and I'd be like, I don't know, I think it's going to be good this week. And there's a reason why a -4 is seen by a lot of very, very experienced managers as a thing that you just shouldn't generally do unless there's a very good reason to do it. So I don't know. Maybe I was just incredibly lucky last season, and maybe you've been a bit unfortunate and you've kind of ended up on the wrong side of it. But I just think you've got to stay true to the way you play the game and the way you feel comfortable playing it. But I think you'll have a good season this season.
I think though, I mean, I think you were luckier than me, but I think it's not just that. I don't think that would account for 100K difference between us, but I think that goes back to the last season was a good one for risk-taking managers because it was so topsy-turvy. Whereas if this season, I think if COVID is a factor this season, I think you probably will beat me again because I think you are able to short-term jump on stuff and we react to things a lot quicker than I mean, not that COVID was the only reason, but COVID generates double game weeks and big fixture swings and stuff. Whereas I think if it is a sort of classic mid 2010s plod of a season where patience is rewarded, then it could be that. I mean, the fact that we've got 3 wild cards and a World Cup in the middle suggests it will be a bit chaotic again. So
it does, but then I think it might be more, especially if COVID isn't a factor. It'll be much more structured, won't it? Because we know when those unlimited transfer periods are. I think the World Cup will throw a few spanners in the work, but we'll be coming back to it knowing that you've got to have Salah, you've got to have Haaland, you've got to have players who are going to be fit and haven't played in the semi-final or the final and stuff like that. So that will be really interesting, but at least we'll be able to see that coming. Whereas the COVID postponements were absolute carnage, weren't they? So
yeah,
I think there could be that. It's interesting. I do think though, little things, like I say, little things, maybe quite big things, but whereas I was thinking, right, I must break my team to get Reece James in it. And I don't remember breaking my team, but I must get Reece James because I know how ridiculously explosive he can be. And I think I didn't get him for his first haul. I got him for the games after that. But I think you at that point went like Azpilicueta.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, well, he might not start, he might start. I think that is one thing we all need to try and do, is get those players who can get the kind of upper teen hauls. Yeah. Because even if they miss a game, they could get, the 18 point to the next game, which means they've done really well. So in fact, what was that FPL the Onion quote where it was like, oh, I think I'd rather have Laqueta's 2 6s than Reece James's 0 and a 17 or something. You're like, I'd rather have the 12.
I was instantly thinking that when you said it, and I was going to bring it up just to take the piss out of myself in case you didn't, but thanks for doing that. Right on cue.
No, I'm losing you again now, Shlee.
Oh, I think you're back. Well, audio's there. Your video seems a bit stalled. Yeah, right. Well, before I pause the video again here, I'll just, a few episodes ago, wasn't it? Yeah, I think in my head I was like 2 6s is pretty, is so consistent and good for a defender. But I was thinking in my head that a 0 and a 17 or something for James is worse because of the inconsistency. But obviously that's completely ridiculous. But then I think I made the point as well, how rare is it for it to get something like 17? It's just insane. But that was what was happening last season. So many 15+ point hauls. Okay, we're back again after another internet failure. Not sure what's going on, but it's all fine because now we're sharing my screen to Nick through my phone, which is balanced on my laptop with a glass jar that I found on the shelf nearby. So if there's a big crash, you know what's happened.
This is brilliant. This is brilliant. I mean, we're super high tech on this pod, so
it is super duper. Right then, 28 minutes in, draft time. Can you see those players or no, or not?
I can see the shirts, and I'm so familiar. I'm so familiar with these teams now and with these players. I should be able to guess. But can you read, if you read the teams out anyway? This is probably quite good discipline for us, Shlee, because you'll read it out for people on the audio version, or just listening to it.
This is true. So describing 2 teams. Left is a 3-mium, on the right is 2 premiums. On the left, with 1 mil in the bank, Mendy in goal, 4-4-2. Cancelo, Trent, Gabriel, Cash. Salah captain, Neto, Martinelli, Bailey, Kane, Haaland, and cheap as it comes bench. Nico Williams and Andre and Pereira, the only playing players.
Yeah.
And then on the right, 0.5.
So how much have you got in the bank on that 3
1
million?
mil.
1 mil. Wow.
So Cash to Perisic. Mendy to, I didn't do Mendy to Ederson just because triple City does scare me a bit with locking yourself out of a better option. Neto to Rashford, I suppose you'd suggest, fair enough. Obviously can improve the bench, and maybe a Nico Williams to like Tomiyasu, but I've got Gabriel. I was just quite smitten with what Mark was saying on Blackbox about Gabriel being an aerial threat, and then playing Palace and Leicester, who are both the worst at set pieces last season, which I thought was quite convincing. So kind of gone off. I never massively on Zinchenko, but I think it's quite a toss up between him and Gabriel.
No, I agree. I think Gabriel is probably the best of those Arsenal defenders. I mean, Tierney just can't stay fit, and I think he's injured again. I think Zinchenko is a decent option, but a lot of people have been like, well, he's going to be out of position because he might be playing midfield. I think he'll be playing left back until Tierney gets back, and who knows when that will be. And he may just keep getting injured. But even if Zinchenko does play further forward, I don't expect him to be getting loads of attacking returns. And actually, Gabriel scored very well last season. My only thing would be that if you've got $1 million in the bank, can you not go Gabriel up to another 6 mil defender? Like you could have one of the Chelsea boys. I know people are a bit concerned about Chelsea now, given what Tuchel's been saying, but could you not just have, because Reece James, again, we were talking earlier about that explosiveness versus kind of the steady pick. Surely Reece James, with the fixtures that Chelsea have got, is worth $1 million over Gabriel.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but is he? I suppose. I mean, Chelsea are out of form. Everton. I mean, Tottenham is second game, and then Leeds, who are just going to attack. Okay, that could be 8-0 to Chelsea, but it could be 3-all. So I think those three, opening three, I know the ticker says they're a bit better for Chelsea, but I mean, Arsenal got Palace, who apparently got loads of injuries. Okay, Leicester, they can obviously attack it, but then they got two promoted teams. So I think on paper I slightly prefer Arsenal. I mean, maybe the thing there would be just to go if I wanted to have that split, it would be Ramsdale and James rather than Mendy and Gabriel. That might be better.
Yeah. Exactly. And you're still covering it off, but you're getting the potential for, because I did hear that in one of the friendlies, I can't remember whether it was the Arsenal friendly, but that Reece James did play kind of right centre back. But
yeah, that's put me off a bit, just the whole changes in defence and stuff. So I'm a bit off Chelsea at the moment, just looking at their fixtures as well. They beat Club America 2-1, drew 1-1, and then lost 4-0 to Arsenal. Everyone, I guess, knows that.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I think the other one then is, like you say, it's kind of potentially Neto versus Rashford. But again, I had, at one point last week, I think it was probably on the day that they, of their last friendly. I think the friendly before the Villa friendly, I had Martial, or tried out a team with Martial and Rashford in it. But I do think there is going to be amazing value in that Man United team this year, just because Ten Hag is going to do a much, much better job than Ralf Rangnick did. And I think you'll get these players playing. Obviously, it depends if Ronaldo comes back and whether he starts kind of doing well himself, but sucking the life out of the rest of the team like he kind of did last year. But then, he is a serial winner. And what was going on at United last season was pretty shocking from that perspective. So maybe he was just completely annoyed with what was going on. But I think Martial, if he plays, is going to be amazing value. I think Rashford, I think it was Rashford 9.5 at the start of last season. So we've come down by,
I think it's a 3 mil reduction. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely. I mean, the value there, if he plays on the left side of that attack and does what we know he can do. I mean, we all have short memories, but season before last, there was a reason why he was 9.5 at the start of last season. I think he got like 180 points, something like that, but for 6.5. But the only thing that tips you back towards Neto is that he is actually returning almost as well as Rashford in pre-season, isn't he? And Wolves fixtures are really, really good. So I can see why, he is a very, very good enabler. And I think before he started scoring decent returns in pre-season friendlies, again, don't want to put too much stock again in that, but it is just nice to see a player who you might play getting minutes and getting returns. So it means that it shows that he's fit and shows that he's confident. But Rashford's had a good preseason as well and talking a good game before the season. So I don't know. I think if I had that million, I think I'd probably would put it somewhere. If you got Bailey in that team as well, yeah. Because the other one you've got Martinelli and Bailey, haven't you?
Yeah.
I guess the other six, they were talking up Lingard a lot, and I know you listen to Mark on Black Box talking up Lingard too. I think he'll be great value at some point in the season as well.
Agreed. Yeah.
I just don't think quite.
Not sure at the start. Game week 6, they get really good. In fact, they got Bournemouth, Fulham, and Leeds there, 2 promoted teams in Leeds. Lovely. I'm a bit the same with United. I think I'm going to wait a bit on them. I can't see myself starting with any. Unless something big changes like Dalot comes through or they sell Ronaldo or something. Southampton from game week 4. They've got Leeds in there, game week 8. There's some good fixtures after that.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think there were big talks today there were big talks scheduled between Ten Hag and Ronaldo today. We heard, but if it does turn out that he's going to leave, I think I'd probably convert one of my 6 million midfielders, whether it be Martinelli, although I do really like Martinelli as an option, but I think I'd probably have 3 up top and turn him into Martial, because I think if he's going to play up front for United, with the understanding that he's got with Rashford, with Sancho looking good in pre-season, with Ten Hag there doing and saying all the right things, I think there's just massive value in that United team.
Yep. Yeah, Martial's 3 goals and 1 assist in the same minutes as Rashford, so yeah, decent.
Yeah, very decent. Cool. Okay, the draft on the right then.
So this is the 2 premiums, 0.5 in the bank, Ederson in goal, Cancelo, Trent, Gabriel, Robertson, James, Salah captain, Neto, Martinelli, Kane, Jesus, cheap bench.
Yeah, very nice.
0.5 in the bank, you'd probably do...
You could do Gabriel. The other person we haven't discussed is Perisic, isn't it? Because he has actually played some preseason minutes now, whereas I think the last time we spoke he hadn't played and he was still injured. He is a good option, but it's that thing where I do agree that at the start of the season, because it's the time of the season we have the least amount of information.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's been such a break from the last game of the previous season, and yes, there've been some friendlies, but we don't have the information that we'll have even after game week 1, or, people say try and save your wild card till at least, game week 4, so that you've got, that kind of information going. But Gabriel's a much safer pick than Perisic. And Perisic might get pulled off in the first, he might get pulled off before 60 minutes fairly regularly. But I just think if you're going to own Perisic at any point in the season, this is probably the best time to do it before the Champions League starts.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, true. I think if you play some minutes and gets an attack in return, I don't know what fixtures they've got left. I'm just going to look at the spreadsheet without sharing.
I think they've got one left, haven't they?
Oh, is it?
I think it's on the 30th.
Roma, 30th, yeah. So he hasn't played any in those opening 3 games. That's pretty mad.
I thought didn't he play minutes in the last one though?
30 minutes he's got under his belt. Yeah. Into this, so okay.
But that's the thing about pre-season, right? That's a massive difference between 0 minutes, isn't it? 30 minutes, it means that he can play football, like he's working. Although I did notice, I can't remember who it was who did that, but there was a player who played like the first game and then didn't play another game after that. And he obviously, I didn't see a report of an injury, but he obviously didn't come through those first games. I can't remember who that was, but
in the Spurs team, sorry.
There is quite a lot to be seen from those minutes.
Right.
No, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember who it was, but it's just one of those things where you're trying to spot patterns in it.
Right.
And there's somebody who maybe they didn't play the first, maybe they played the second, and then they didn't play after that. It might have been Chilwell, Chelsea.
Okay.
I think maybe he played 45 minutes and they didn't play after that.
Excuse the button clicking, but yeah, it's going back to different tabs here. But yeah, hasn't got it per minutes for the games, but it says that Chilwell's played 90 minutes total in 3 pre-season games. So
yeah,
maybe a couple of 45s, I guess. They've only got 1 friendly left.
So where are you leaning between these? It sounds like you're leaning towards the freemium draft.
No, I'm probably still 75% likely going to premium.
Right.
But I think it was probably like 95% a couple of weeks ago, so it's definitely on my mind a bit more. I think if Haaland is injured or unlikely to play, I think it's 2 premium all the way. But I think if he bangs in the Community Shield, that might go a bit more towards 50-50, because it's so tricky to ignore that.
Yeah, because obviously the one on the right, you're leaning towards starting with Kane rather than Haaland.
Yeah, I think exactly. And I think I'm a bit more okay with booking in that transfer, because I really do like Kane in that one. And if Haaland is a bit of a doubt, maybe plays 30 minutes in the Community Shield and does nothing, I might book that one in. The 2 things these have in common, which is a little bit scary in a way, is that they have no 8 million midfielders. I mean, the one on the right has also got triple Arsenal, so I'm okay with not having to say Saka, but the one on the right has no Saka and only Gabriel Martinelli as Arsenal cover, and that Palace game I think is a little bit tricky, even though Palace have got loads of injuries, but I am a little bit worried with that inflexibility in midfield. I'm not too worried about people like Maddison. City mid's a bit of a risk, so I don't know. You know what I mean? I think 8 million midfielders are maybe being made up a little bit too much, and actually, if you look at them, there are either alternatives to them. Obviously, City have loads of options, and with Saka, you could have Martinelli or Jesus, or their fixtures don't get that great for a little bit. Like Mount, people are on, but again, Chelsea doubts. I think you go defence rather than him. Maddison, I think can ignore for the first couple. Who have they got?
That's the thing for me, because obviously everyone, since the prices came out, everyone's been talking up the 8 million midfielders and saying what great options there are in there. And I don't disagree, they are great options. But when I've been looking at it, the reason why I've ended up with like Salah and then, enablers in midfield is because, and I did in early drafts, I had 8 million midfielder. But when you look at what 7 million buys you in the defense versus 8 million buys you in the midfield, if I had, say, two 8 million midfielders, I'd be looking to change them to 7 million defenders and having money elsewhere. I mean, I think Jesus is, getting 2 goals in his first game. I'm sure he got 3, but when I watched the highlights, everyone's saying 2. But then and then scoring in the next game as well. I think he got the first goal against Chelsea in the 4-0 as well. But his form looks incredible in pre-season, and obviously he is going to play. You think he is going to play up top, and he's got very good midfield behind him. But he could just be an 8 million midfielder, couldn't he? He's another spot that you're pulling that out of midfield and putting it in attack, and it's quite nice having 2 strikers, because it means that when Mitrovic becomes an option, if Jesus isn't doing it, you can drop down to Mitrovic. But that's why my midfield has been so light, and it does feel counterintuitive, because we're all told that midfielders are the highest point scorers in the game and everything else. I just think there's so much value in the big defenders, and then I think because of the likes of Haaland and Kane and Son and Salah, you just you have to find a way to fit these people into your team.
Yeah. Speaking of which, your drafts are up. You want to talk us through these?
Yes, I've pulled this up on the email that sent it to you, because it's going to be easier for me to see. So the draft on the left is the freemium draft, yep. And for those listening, you've got Raya in goal, Trent, Cancelo, Robertson, and Johnny of Wolves, Neto, Martinelli, Salah captain, Bailey, Haaland, and Kane, and then the bench is very similar to Shlee. So Andreas 4.5, and then Nico Williams of Forest, and then Archer. Although, just a tip on that, if you are going to go for very cheap striker is kind of the main position. But if you're going to go for that cheap 4.5 striker as kind of dead wood, try and pick someone who isn't very highly owned, because there's a lot of people saying that if you have, say, I think Greenwood in there, I can't remember who the most highly owned. I think it's Greenwood, but
I think it is, yeah.
If lots of players are taking that player out, to make transfers, etc., in the early weeks, they could drop in price, and then you're losing money then for your first wildcard that most people are going to play quite early. So just be careful of that.
I didn't think that was true.
Your bench.
I thought it was okay. Green was 23% owned, but he would need so many more transfers to drop. Than it's all a percentage thing. 1% of owners would need to ditch Greenwood to drop him in price. The same is true of Archer. And obviously 1% of Archers is a lot less. I thought it was as simple as that.
I might have to check that, but everyone on Andy's Discord channel is saying the opposite. They're saying just be really careful not to own a highly owned. Because I think, again, if that's probably true, but if you have, I don't know whether it's necessarily kind of percentage for percentage, and I think if lots of people are getting rid of one player, if lots of people have them and then get rid of them, then more likely to drop.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the argument, that more engaged managers are likely to have Greenwood, and therefore the percentage of getting rid is higher, because they'll be wildcarding early or whatever, or realising that he's maybe a deadwood early on. But put it this way, FPLY were ranking their 4.5 attackers, and they put Greenwood top for all 3 of them. They didn't mention anything about that, so
no,
maybe they are, though, purely looking at points, but they also mentioned Archer and Plange.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, it's just that point, isn't it? That if you know that the player isn't going to play and you don't need them to play, why wouldn't you just go for like literally any? Like, because the other thing is you don't want to block. Say Villa are looking good, you don't want Archer because you don't want to block. You don't want to block Villa spots. So it's another thing to think about. So yeah, so in the 3-man draft, I love the fact that I can still have Trent, Cancelo, and Robertson. Obviously, if I downgrade one of those, I could have, I've seen drafts. I think you might have had this where you didn't have this, but I've seen this tonight where you can have the two Chelsea, Chilwell and James in there if you think Chilwell's going to start. If you just downgrade one of Robertson or Cancelo down to a 5, it's pretty easy to do. So, but I just think Cancelo with 200 points last season, Robertson's had 200 points before. I just think for 7 million, they're absolutely nailed in their teams. I love the fact that Cancelo got the number 7 shirt for City when he's there.
Is that right?
Yeah, he took Sterling's number 7 shirt when he left.
Oh, wow.
So I love that. But obviously, if they get Cucurella, then it does mean that you're going to be slightly more concerned about Cancelo's minutes. And I think in my other draft, I've got Walker. Actually, I don't have Walker in my other draft, interestingly. I think in one of these teams, I've got Walker in here as well, in a 5 at the back, but I may have switched him out to get Neto into midfield. But Walker obviously is going to be the first casualty if they get Cucurella in, but whether he'll be ready to start the season. And then in the midfield, I think Neto, Martinelli, and Bailey are just showing really, really good. It could be very, very good value. I'd like to be able to get to Rashford, but I wouldn't want to lose Martinelli to do that really. So I might, as you say, I just think I'm a bit more confident about Martinelli than Rashford starts, which is strange given that, you've got lots of other good midfielders at Arsenal, Odegaard and Smith Rowe and the like, and even Zinchenko now kind of on that left side if he's going to get pushed up the field. Bailey, I'm pretty worried about because he's just one of those where he could just have one bad game and then disappear without a trace, and suddenly there's a player in your team that isn't playing.
Yeah, but you've got a bench on both of these. That's important.
Yeah, I've got players who play, but you wouldn't, I guess if Bailey suddenly drops out of the team, there probably isn't a massive difference in terms of an enabler between Bailey and Andreas, really, is the Pereira. But if Fulham have got a decent fixture, but that is the problem with these 3-man drafts is you are relying on these budget options staying good picks. But again, somebody would look at this team last season and say, "Oh, well, you're likely to play an early wildcard." But I think everyone's likely to play. Every engaged manager's going to play it full game week 8, so we don't need as much longevity in it. And then, as we've just said, if Haaland gets an injury or if he looks like he's going to be rotated for the Champions League, it's very easy to go Haaland down to Jesus, and then you can go, Bailey up to an 8.5 even. So. It is easy to switch the money around with the 3-man draft, but I really like not having to pick between Haaland and Kane.
Is that almost the bigger reason than say late risers' thoughts on their just fixtures are so insane that you could easily be getting mega hauls from them, because the team on the left you can almost imagine as one of your Son getting 85% of the points. There could be 3 15s in there and then 8 2s, but that could easily be 3s 4s 5s that the one on the left might get, the one on the right might get.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, I think for me it's the fact that I can still have Trent, Cancelo, and Robertson, because I know a lot of people. I've seen loads of drafts with Diaz in the midfield. I just prefer Robertson over Diaz because I think he is much more solid, and he is 1 million less, and he has done it season after season after season, and. So I love not having, I've had lots of drafts where I've had Diaz instead of Cancelo, and I'm just like, well, Cancelo just gets so many more bonus points than Diaz that I want to pay. I'm happy to pay that extra million, but it's just what it does to the rest of the team. But even if you downgrade a Cancelo down to a Diaz and think, right, okay, let's find some money elsewhere. It's like you were saying, Shlee, what am I really upgrading? What am I doing with that million? I mean, okay, Martinelli up to Grealish maybe. Again, Grealish, I'm not sure of his minutes, although I do think he'll be really insane value this season as well. I think he'll have a really good season, and I probably will own him at some point. But again, it's the first game week, so you don't know what you don't know. Neto up to Rashford maybe, but again, Cancelo gets 200 points generally. That's what he does. So, and their fixtures are amazing. So then when you come down to the Tumium draft, if there is such a thing, the trade-offs just really aren't coming down from the freemium down to the Tumium. They're just not really that big. I mean, if you have you got it up on the slide? Yeah, in the middle there, you've got, yes, obviously Reece James is a massive upgrade on Johnny, fine. Rashford and Bailey, who knows? Rashford should be much better value than, or much stronger than Bailey, but who knows? And that's it. Then it's Kane over Jesus, which Kane's huge over Jesus, in my opinion. I mean, yes, Jesus could have an incredible start to the season, but Kane, we know what Kane can do. And I think he just looks very, very fit, very ready to start the season, very settled at Spurs, very happy to have Conte as his manager and, to be competing for, I think they will compete for trophies. Maybe not. They might not be competing in the top two for the league just because Liverpool and City are so strong, but they look formidable, Spurs. They've made some good signings. That's the trade. Those are the trade-offs. It's Johnny versus James, Bailey, Rashford, and then Kane is. I think Kane, totally makes up for that. So, for all the reasons that we've said, I'm like 90% on this freemium.
Fair enough.
I just think
I can't argue with that. I think the different way we've approached this is that I have basically cash cowed Robertson. I have thought in a freemium that is too much, having Trent and Robertson. And if you kind of looked, I guess, statistically at your price point, well, your strike force, like mine, would be ridiculous. You've got so much money up there, but also your defence having 3 premiums and a 4.5. So I think the only difference is that I've gone Robertson to James, I think, and I've got a better keeper. And I've got Gabriel rather than Johnny or Cash, I think. So we've kind of approached it, and as we said before, we started recording. Front six is the same, so it is kind of interesting. I can definitely see myself getting talked into it.
I mean, this thing, because I have looked at it. I've looked at lots of different combinations of it. I could do either Robertson or Cancelo down to a 6, and then Johnny, instead of being a 4.5 million Wolves defender, could become Perisic, for example. Or I could have, I could even go Robertson down to Van Dijk, and then Johnny could become there are lots of very good options at that 5 million point. So there are ways to do that. I just think if Johnny plays, and again, he could get injured, but he had a very, very bad injury. It was either last season or the season before. But he could get 120 points. And again, this isn't a team for the whole season. This is a team for the first 5-6 game weeks. But Wolves have got very good fixtures, and he is quite attacking. So I don't mind him. And I think Robertson over Van Dijk and Cancelo over Diaz, they are, these are players who, again, if in this team you instead of picturing it like this, you had Cancelo in the midfield and you had Robertson in the midfield, and you had you looked at Neto and Bailey as kind of cheap the old 4.5 defenders of old kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing now. These wing backs are midfielders who are getting 4 points for a clean sheet and an extra point for a goal. Yeah. They're insane. I mean, they're so attacking. I mean, Cancelo getting the number 7 shirt is the best example of that.
I wasn't aware of that. That's hilarious. I mean, I haven't really seen many 3-5-2s, put it that way. I think people pack in the midfield, even though, like you say, history would tell us to go for the midfielders. But I think the temptation is with expensive strikers and expensive defenders as well. It's quite a tug in different directions there. What to do with midfield?
Yeah, I just think it is that difference between those great options at 8 million, and they are great options and they're still good value. But when you weigh them up against, the Trents, Cancelos, and Robertsons, who are cheaper than them and I think will score more points than them. I don't see Kulusevski getting more points than Robertson or Cancelo. He's a brilliant player, but he's also got competition for his place.
Yeah.
Same with Mount, same with Mahrez.
Yeah, and I think Diaz versus Robertson is, I think that was quite 50-50 a couple of weeks ago on that. But yeah, the mil difference, I think someone just black and white had said that points per game, Robertson's on about 5.5 and Diaz is on about 4.5. So, excuse me, that was quite a big sway. So, that's another sort of the last 8 million midfielder we didn't mention earlier, but I'm not too scared on that.
No, I mean, I guess the only thing is, it is that, and I haven't done enough research on this probably yet, but it is that thing of, a Reece James, and this is the other thing. If Reece James had got a couple of assists in pre-season and Chelsea were looking strong, maybe I'd be more inclined to do a Robertson or a Cancelo down to a Reece James and upgrade Johnny. But again, it's the kind of thing. This is the point about the early wild card, is that I can play that wild card with a lot more information, but I know that in game week 1, Robertson's going to play for Liverpool and Cancelo is going to play for City, and they're going to do what they do. And we'll also have we'll have the Community Shield to see how they're doing as well. So
yeah, I'm just looking at Liverpool's fixtures. They've actually got 3 fixtures left. I mean, one is the day after the Community Shield, so I presume that'll be the B team. But it's quite good that we've got Salzburg tomorrow, and after that 4-0 loss to United, it was 2-0 Palace and 5-0 Leipzig. So clean sheets have come as well, which is good.
Have you thought about Darwin Núñez after his 4 goals? No, I haven't either. A lot of people got very excited about him, but again, I just can't see it.
What about before we move on from this? So you've got 4.5, you've got Raya in both. How tempted are you to go more premium than that?
Yeah, again, it's finding the money, and finding the money is generally in that defense. So it's because, again, there's not a lot of fat to be trimmed in the midfield, and Kane and Haaland up front, or Kane or Haaland and Jesus up front. So it's again a trade-off between Cancelo down to Diaz and then say Raya up to Ederson. It's just, I think Raya and Cancelo get more points than Diaz and Ederson, because I think Brentford's fixtures aren't horrendous. I need to see what Brentford are the team who could really disappoint me, and I think because I do think Raya is a good keeper, but I think maybe the safer pick is to go for Sanchez. I just obviously don't like that United fixture to open. But yeah, I just don't think I can find another 0.5. The only other way to do it potentially is to play Nico Williams, and because is there going to be a massive points difference over 5 games between Nico Williams and Johnny? Maybe not. And then upgrade to a 5 and have as you say, maybe Mendy or
you'd have Mendy on the left, but I think on the right it's more tricky, isn't it? Because you've already got James. I'm not big on the double up now.
No, exactly. But I could, I think Ramsdale could be good. Even I think Martinez is only 5 as well, isn't he, at Villa? So I think he might be quite good this season, because they've bought, I can't remember the guy's name, but they've bought a very, very good defensive midfielder, the kind of France international defensive midfielder, and they think that will shore up their defense quite a lot.
Yeah. Right. Good. That is a good bit of detail on those. Should we move on to pre-season?
Yes, indeed. Let's do it.
So if you wouldn't mind maybe having your drafts up, maybe just to remind me what teams we've got, but we'll go through this fairly quick and just look at the results. So thanks to FPLP with an underscore at the end. I pinched this, which is a great Google Docs that we can just look at. Goals and assists obviously in there, and then on the right the results they've had. So they've actually played 5 games. Arsenal won them all. So the form's really good. And then, what stands out in Nketiah, 4 goals, 4 assists. Jesus, 4 goals, 1 assist. Martinelli, 1 goal, 4 assists. Saka, 2 goals, 1 assist. So it's looking good in terms of form.
Yeah.
Gabriel has played a lot of minutes. That's good. Zinchenko only 45, but that would have been just after he came in.
And apparently the fans were singing his name at the end of the game as well.
Who's
I think
Zinchenko?
I think that was the Chelsea game, wasn't it? So he must have had a good game.
Okay. The most important one there, which I think is what we said, quite a bit, that the Saka to Martinelli is important, but only if Martinelli plays, and it looks like he is.
Yeah, I think, I listened to Late Riser he did like a solo stream.
Yeah,
I can't remember whether it was last night or the night before.
Yeah.
But he was saying how he thinks Martinelli is going to have his breakout season, and he's certainly a very, very talented player. And I think he will nail down that spot. And so I think Saka's fantastic, but I think for 2 million, I think Martinelli's a great enabler.
And we didn't really touch on the fact that you can't really have Jesus in a threemium. How worried are you about that?
So I actually have had drafts where I've had Jesus up front with Haaland and Kane, and I haven't had a single draft without Salah. So you can do it. I think it just, for me, means that you can't have Cancelo and Robertson. And I just think that, I could do it by the defense still looks pretty strong. I think it ends and maybe I could look at doing that as a way of spreading those. I think that might be a good use of the Cancelo and Robertson funds, and having good 5 million defenders in there. It might mean I could upgrade the goalkeeper as well. I'd have to kind of have another look at that, but I just I do like. Yeah, I think it was a 5-2-3 even, so I think it means it taking even more money out of the midfield as well. So it gets a bit difficult. But no, okay. I think I am that Jesus is the one player that I'm really worried about not having.
Yeah. And it's just the ownership as well. It's just through the roof, isn't it? He's the highest, I think, now. So that is the worry. Yeah. But I still think, that Palace fixture is maybe not a big worry. And I wonder if you did go 3 million without Jesus, whether probably not Haaland, but maybe Kane to Jesus game week 2 would be the obvious thing in a way. Maybe Spurs don't explode at Southampton, and maybe that Chelsea game looks quite tricky. Like you say, it'd be a great way to raise funds.
Yeah. No, exactly. I guess the way I've looked at it, and this isn't the way to look at it, is that I'm putting Kane and Haaland up against Jesus, but really there are other ways to do it. And I guess I could say, well, I'm putting Martinelli up against Jesus, say, and it's not quite as good, but that is the one player that I, especially as you say, because the ownership as well. And people are saying, those first 2 fixtures aren't good, but Arsenal have just smashed Chelsea 4-0 in a friendly, so they could easily beat Palace, couldn't they?
Yeah. So Villa's up next. Bailey's obviously doing well with 2 goals and assists. They've played 4 games, won 3 of them. Cash is getting good minutes. Archer's got a couple of goals. That's why he's popular.
Didn't Bailey, in what I saw, I thought Bailey had got a goal and assist in the United game and then a goal and assist in another game. Was that, am I thinking of someone else?
Not sure. I mean, I did, before we came on, see another person quoting Nketiah as having 4 goals, 2 assists, where this has got 4 and 4. Maybe there's some, what counts as an assist going on here.
Right. Yeah.
I think we'll skip Bournemouth. Brentford is, just wanted to show the keeper minutes when my laptop wakes up. Yeah, Ray at 195, Balcom 45, and Strakosha none. So I mean, maybe that's just because Strakosha just arrived, but their form is not great. 1 win in 4. But yeah. And then what's Sanchez comparing with? He's got more minutes than Steele. Fair enough. They've only played 3 friendlies, 1 left, but they haven't lost, so that's interesting. Seem to have the better form.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that I could do. It'll depend on the last friendlies, but I think Sanchez in goal could be a slightly safer pick.
Yeah. Chelsea then, 1-1 drawn, 1 lost, 1. The only defensive returns has been Alonso with 1 assist. As we said, Chilwell's only got 90 minutes. James has been getting a decent amount. I was just looking where Mount is. Okay, he's got 1 goal. He's played the most minutes of anybody, apart from James and Mendy. Seen a few teams with Havertz in, but I just don't really get that 8 mil.
Yeah. No, not when you can have Jesus instead.
Agreed. Fulham will do next, I think, because of Pereira. He is on 167 minutes, 2 assists. Nice, so that's looking good in terms of him playing.
Yeah.
Can skip these, I think. Liverpool. Oh, Trent's got 2 assists. Interesting. Robertson with nothing. And yeah, Darwin with 4 goals. But yeah, Salah's getting minutes.
Salah gave Darwin that penalty, didn't he? He was on the pitch and he gave him the penalty, but I think it was just helping him get off the mark.
Yeah, exactly. City have been interesting actually, just looking at midfielders. So they've got this weird pre-season where they're starting late and they've only got 1 game left, having 1-2-1 and 1-0. So De Bruyne has got 2 goals. Foden's yet to play any minutes. That's interesting.
But isn't it 2 games before the Community Shield?
Yeah, they've played 2 and they've only got the Community Shield left, according to this.
I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? I don't think I've ever seen such a short pre-season for an elite team.
Yeah. And yeah, Laporte's getting no minutes, but Ake apparently has been doing quite well. He could maybe make a bit of a late surge into people's teams. He's only 5 mil.
It's very short term, isn't it? Because you'd think as soon as Laporte's fit, he'll be back.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, I didn't realise Foden with no minutes.
Did Kyle Walker play both those games?
Not sure, but he's got 128 minutes over 2 games, so he's played a decent amount.
Yeah. What do you think about that? I mean, Walker versus. What do you think about that as a trade off in one of my teams, like Walker versus Neto? So I could have a 5 at the back in the balance team and just not have Neto in midfield and have Kyle Walker at the back.
Yeah. Yeah. He's less secure than Ederson, but you're saving 0.5. You've got your 3 City locked in though, but then if you haven't got any 8 million midfielders to move to Foden, Mahrez, then you're almost making your bed there and saying it's going to be hard to get to.
But I could do Neto down to Johnny and then Raya up to Ederson. So I could have Ederson and then Johnny in defence and just do Johnny instead of Neto.
Yeah, I think I do prefer Ederson, but then maybe this is the boring me coming out. Maybe Walker. I mean, he's got an attacking return in him. Maybe if you do nail those wing back spots, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
He does take back quite a lot though, Walker, doesn't he, as well, just his pace is so ridiculous. But they're playing West Ham, who, well, it'll probably be Bowen that's the threat, isn't it? I just think Antonio's not going to be running in behind.
Yeah. But that is
Walker,
interesting, isn't it? Because it's basically a 4 point, because it doesn't have to be Johnny, it could be Tomiyasu or whoever else. Although I think Tomiyasu missed minutes, I think. But
yeah, I think he's got a bit of a knock.
Yeah. And I do think Johnny's quite a good pick, but I mean, so it's those sorts of trade-offs, isn't it? You're like, right, okay, Neto out of the team, Johnny in 5 at the back, and then Ederson in goal. It's quite nice that.
Yeah, but that would be triple City defence, or you wouldn't have Cancelo.
No, it'd be double City defence because I wouldn't have Kyle Walker. It would be.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
It would be Ederson instead of Kyle Walker and Johnny instead of Neto, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
But because the issue with that is it means that you don't have Nico Williams as that 4 million very, very cheap enabler who I think he'll get like an assist or a goal in the first 5 game weeks and suddenly he'll be in absolutely every single team you see.
Yeah. And silly, isn't it? Because he might only go up to like 4.2, 4.3 like Simicast did and then plummet, but it feels good to have it and you at least saving 0.5 with having him in.
I don't think he'll plummet because I think he'll play pretty much every minute for that Forest team this season, and they haven't got any other. They're not in Europe or anything, so I think he'll be much more like a Livramento. I think he'll kind of get to around 4.3, and if he tails off or they start conceding loads of goals and he's not getting forward or getting returns, but Mark seems pretty confident that he is. You think Jed Spence was very attacking for them last season. He's been brought in to do that job. So
yeah, nice. I mean, that is one of the reasons I'm not massive. It's only a small swing on it, but 5 at the back means you probably haven't got him, and it does save you quite a lot of cash. And I noticed, 2 4-4-2s. That's probably part of the reason.
Exactly, but then it means that I can't get Ederson in goal instead of Raya. So interesting trade-offs.
Skip through these a bit more. The next big interest is probably Spurs. Son with I was trying to calculate beforehand whether Son's 2 goals 4 assists is more points than Kane's 5 goals 1 assist, and I think it is, isn't it? 26 and Kane 21. But it's just that, like you say, that 0.5, and then Son to De Bruyne sounds less powerful than Kane to Haaland.
I think the other big thing, I was thinking about this the other day. You have Salah, you captain Salah, because one of the reasons is, yes, he's unbelievable. He also has penalties, so he just always has that route to a goal. And it's the same thing with Kane. Obviously, it's not as good that he's not a midfielder, but Son did incredibly well last season to, be tied for the Golden Boot and to beat Kane in goals without penalties. But Kane does have penalties, so if Spurs are going to be really good this season and getting in the opposition box a lot, Kane is going to have some penalties. He probably have more than, I don't feel like they got that many last season, but he's going to have some this season. It's just that is quite a big difference for me. I know Son may well outscore him, but for the 0.5 and the penalties, I think Kane looks like the better option given how well he's done in pre-season. There goes your phone setup.
Yeah, I was on mute at the time just to type something because something I need to do later when we upload. But as in to do with the YouTube, I'm not like remembering that I need to buy beans at the supermarket. But yeah, the bottle has gone. Hang on.
Did it knock the water over as well?
No, luckily not. No,
oh.
That'd be a nightmare.
There we go.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. And then West Ham and Wolves last. So I mean, yeah, Wolves wing backs. I mean, people are talking about Aït-Nouri being like left wing, perhaps. Have you heard this? Got one assist.
I haven't heard about him being left wing, but I have heard about him obviously because I haven't seen Martial in pre-season.
Yeah, he's not actually listed here on. I think
I don't know whether he's even still there because I haven't seen him on any lists either.
No, I think he's left.
Was he on loan or something?
Not sure.
I can't remember, but yeah, Aït-Nouri is the other one rather than Johnny. But Aït-Nouri does I think he takes free kicks and some corners as well. So he's the alternative to Johnny. I just remember when Johnny came back last season, him being really, really attacking and getting a couple of returns.
Yeah. Was it around like 28 when some people were wildcard and I think he got an instant return and like a goal in the first 20 minutes. I remember James playing FPL going nuts.
Yeah.
For it. So yeah, I do quite like the Wolves wing backs. But 160 for Johnny and Aït-Nouri, so they've got a lot of fixtures here. Suggests that maybe they've got A and B teams and they've both been playing, but are we sure who's going to start? It's a tricky one.
I think Johnny's definitely going to start. I don't think Semedo's had a single minute in pre-season.
Right.
Either.
Oh, actually, maybe Johnny's right back then. Maybe they're both playing.
Yeah, Johnny is right back. Yeah.
Okay. And Podence is the only other slight one that I did see before looking at this. I noticed he's been getting in the goals. 3 goals, 1 assist, same as Neto.
Is he 6 Podence?
No, same 5.5.
5.5. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like Wolves just for that short-term fixture grab, and yeah, they're cheap, so they're good enablers, like you said.
Yeah,
and decent form there. Played 5-1-4.
Start with 3 Wolves.
Yeah, although one of them is Forest Green, so put all your eggs in
Johnny
that basket.
Johnny Neto, and Podence.
Yeah,
differential.
Any teams we've missed? Sorry, I have missed your boys. Do you want to go to United or should we move on?
We could go to United very quickly. If people haven't been following it, they've been doing pretty well. Playing some very good football as well, apparently.
Yeah, that goal against Palace was nice, wasn't it? 3 wins, 1 draw. Standouts here: Sancho with 3 goals, Rashford 2 goals, 1 assist, Martial 3 goals, 1 assist.
Yeah, I really want to get Rashford. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. But I think cutting in off that left side. The only issue is if Ronaldo doesn't leave, is that you have to imagine that with Martial having a good preseason as well, that Martial and Rashford will share minutes on that left side. But I think given that Ronaldo still hasn't joined up with the team, although he has been pictured kind of training at home and stuff, and people looking at the fact that he's wearing United shorts while he's training, which shows he's really committed and stuff like that. But apparently he posted it while United were playing Villa, like during the game.
Oh, right.
So there's who knows what's going on there, but I just think with Ronaldo there, you can't just you can't just not play him. He is one of the best players ever. That's the thing that slightly puts me off Martial and Rashford at the moment.
For me, the good thing is we haven't got to decide right away. I can imagine first World Cup me getting 1 to 2 United at least.
Yeah, agreed.
And especially with Eriksen coming in, maybe he's a bit low on fitness, but that creativity in there is quite a scary upgrade. And look what he did to Tony. If he's feeding a Martial or something up front, like you say, be amazing.
Yeah, and Martial for 7 million is pretty easy to have in either in a 2 or a 3 up top, isn't it? You just take out one of your midfielders and put an extra million into the attack.
Cool. Okay, should we move on?
Yeah.
Next slide we had was just questions that we have probably covered most of. Number one, what percent likely to go freemium? You've said about 90%. I think I'm on about 25.
It just shows our different styles, doesn't it? I think.
How likely to have Cancelo? I mean, the fact you've got both, I kind of put this in because previously you talked about Diaz and Ederson a bit, but I don't know, you like 75% Cancelo? He's a kind of cash cow, but you don't really want to do that.
I think Cancelo and a 4-5 do better than Ederson and Diaz in the first 5-6 game weeks, just because Ederson and Diaz are very solid picks, but I just don't. They're not going to get any attacking returns. Diaz, I guess, could score a header from a corner, but it's unlikely. Cancelo could get. He's assisting a main centre forward, and I think last season did he get 11 assists or 12 assists last season? He didn't actually have a centre forward to assist. This season he's going to be able to cross to a guy who is going to be good in the air. So
yeah,
there are some funny stats about him, how much he shoots and how terrible he is at shooting. The fact that I think it was something like he had twice the number of shots of Son, and yet Son obviously got double the number of shots.
Wow, yeah.
Cancelo. But then they looked at like the XG of the opportunities, and even though Cancelo was shooting from inside the box quite a lot or a surprising amount, his XG was much lower than Son's, although Son outperformed his XG, whereas Cancelo didn't. So it suggests that Cancelo isn't actually very good at shooting.
Yeah.
But hopefully Pep will say, stop shooting and put a cross in instead, and someone else can score.
Yeah. I think the next 3, 2, 3, and 4 on the list. 3, 4, and 5. We've covered Tuchel's comments on the Arsenal defeat, what our thoughts on Chelsea defences, and Mount. I think we've covered all those. We haven't really covered
I looked at, just very quickly, I looked at Chelsea's fixtures the other day thinking, maybe they've got a kind of fixture swing for the worse in game week, around 6, 7, 8. But actually they have, I think, one game, I can't remember who it's against, it might be Liverpool or someone. And then they have another run of amazing games right up to game week 16, I think. So again, it's this idea that if we saw Chelsea and they were looking good, I was really surprised by Tuchel's comments. I didn't realize they're in such bad shape. Again, it could just be a way of him trying to get some more money out of the board, the new board. But we can afford to wait and see on them. I won't be surprised if I have 3 Chelsea on my wild card, but I just don't think you necessarily need to start the season with them because they're a risk.
Yeah. What about Sterling? Any thoughts on him? Just too expensive?
I think I'll have Sterling on my wild card. I think he's going to do really well there. I think he'll be the main man. I think he'll be left or right. He's going to be arriving at the far post. He's a very, very good player. We know he's a very good fantasy asset. I think if he'd been 9 million, I might have even taken the risk of starting with him. I think 10 million is just that price up, because I think Bruno Fernandes is going to be a good option at times this season as well, especially again if Ronaldo leaves. Bruno could be a really good option, so it might be a really nice price point to have in your team, that 10 million price point. But again, just with Sterling, I don't think Sterling's played any preseason minutes yet, so it's a wait and see, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. I haven't put him in any drafts. I was looking at the ticker here of it is Liverpool in game week 8 you were probably referring to with Chelsea. Game week 3 or 4 wildcard. I'm partly imagining if things go wrong, that would be a natural time to do it. If it's going wrong, I suppose early is a good time, but Wolves' fixture turns in 3, and then they actually have quite good ones after that. But let's say Neto and Johnny or whoever we've got Podence go badly in 1 and 2, you'd be thinking, well, Spurs away, ditch time.
Yeah.
Tottenham obviously come off the back of that Chelsea game, and if they're smashing it and you're like, blimey, they've got through Chelsea, now it's plain sailing for a bit, you'd be worried about those fixtures.
You'd be looking for a Perisic probably at that point, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and maybe trying to squeeze Son and Kane in rather than another premium. No, but maybe City haven't started that great, and we're thinking, right, it's all about Son and Kane, and Conte without Europe is just smashing it. But the only downside would be that Man U Liverpool fixture, because the game after that's when United really start to turn. But there are quite a few interesting swings. Chelsea then go on a really good run, having got rid of that Spurs game. They got Leeds game week 3.
Yeah. I joked on the pod a couple of weeks ago with Tom, didn't I, that I wait for that Spurs Chelsea fixture to get out of the way, and then I think
did you?
I was joking about bench boosting game week 1, limping through game week 2 with a kind of averagely but a very strong bench, and then just wildcarding game week 3.
Right.
So haven't thought about that for a while, so I don't think that's in the thoughts now.
Well, perfect timing. Question 7 here was plans to wildcard. Any more thoughts on that?
I think when I looked the other day, I think I like the idea of 6. I think it was game week 6. I can't remember who I listened to, but I had a quick look at it and thought, yeah, I like the idea of game week 6. And then I listened to a pod. It might have been FPLY or it might have been Planet FPL, but they were saying that looks like a good week to do it. And it's, I guess, we've all got the same information, but I guess sometimes it's frustrating when you do some research, you think, oh, that looks good, and then suddenly some content creator with hundreds of thousands of followers is like, oh yeah, that's the time to wildcard.
Yeah.
But I think in game week 6, there are some of the newly promoted teams. I think Bournemouth have a really good run of fixtures then if we actually like any of their players. I saw that Solanke's already scored a few times in pre-season, so he's going to be the main man.
Okay.
But it might be the time. If I think Fulham might be okay at that point as well. So just it's a shame because the newly promoted teams I don't think are an option at the start, and yet I do think we'll want them at some point. But with this Threemium draft, maybe I'm just going to be replacing kind of my Johnnies and my Netos and my Baileys with whoever those cheaper bandwagons are at that point.
Bournemouth have scored 4 in pre-season. Yes, Solanke's got 2, which comes back to that FPL Lions pod on The Wire where he was talking about just how much him and Mitrovic hog the percentage returns.
Yeah, and Mitrovic, that's the other person. Mitrovic has got quite a few goals in pre-season as well.
Okay.
Again, you look at the standard of the opposition. Obviously, I think if Fulham didn't have Liverpool first game, I think a lot more people would have Mitrovic in their team. But I do think he's going to be big this season as well.
Yeah. And then I just put a few 50-50s here, so just quick fire. Martinelli versus Saka. I think we're saying Martinelli just because of the price saving. Yeah, probably not going to get as many points over the season, but for that first bit, it seemed in favour. 2 mil saving. It's big, isn't it?
I don't think he'll be. I honestly don't think he'll be far off him. I think if you get it, the biggest thing is minutes, isn't it? Because Saka's much more nailed. But I think if Martinelli starts the season well, I think he could and nails down that spot, and I think he will. I think he could be maybe 20 points behind Saka, which for 2 million is massive.
Yeah.
Diaz, it's not massive. Yeah.
Diaz versus Robbo for Liverpool. I think we both said Robbo 1 mil saving, and Diaz looks great, but we're going up against Robbo, an absolute stalwart.
I think you've got Diaz with an S there, haven't you, rather than Diaz?
Oh no, it's with a Z here.
Oh, sorry, I thought you got it. Oh no, and then I'm reading Ederson versus Diaz. Sorry, yeah. Apologies. Yeah, definitely for me, Robertson on that.
Yeah. Son versus Kane, we sort of touched on. Last season suggests Son, but you're right, the penalties and the 0.5 saving. And that structure, as I say, Son to De Bruyne is less appealing, I think, than Kane to Haaland as an option. But that one is maybe
although yeah, I mean that's not really a consideration for me now. If I'm having Haaland and Kane, you were thinking just in terms of the easy switch Son somewhere else.
Yeah. I know De Bruyne. His pre-season is good. He's got 2 goals, but I'm not seeing De Bruyne in any drafts at all, really. Whereas I'm seeing Son in a few.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Because we know how good De Bruyne is. I think Haaland is blinding a lot of us, but it's a shame. I think if they'd been the same price, that would have been much more of a decision. But
then it's how they played together. I know we've said on the pod recently, what did De Bruyne do when Aguero was around? He was probably quite effective, but Aguero did hog the goals. So if Haaland does that, De Bruyne will suffer a bit probably.
Yeah, true.
Ederson versus Diaz. What do you think there?
That's really tough, isn't it? I think if it was a straight shoot, I would have Ederson over Diaz, but I just think it's the fact that there are good 4.5 goalkeepers I've just always ended up with the 4.5 keeper rather than Ederson, because if you've got it feels like it's Ederson versus Diaz for that City spot, but really for me it's kind of Ederson versus a 4-5, and there's a million saving there.
Yeah, okay.
And there's always a way to spend that extra million, although you haven't found one in one of your drafts, Shlee.
And then Gabriel versus Zinchenko. I think this is really tough. It's maybe see what happens in Arsenal's next game if Zinchenko is being applauded off the pitch again. But that Gabriel stat from Mark was quite good.
Yeah, as we said at the start, I prefer Gabriel. I think, again, if Zinchenko starts really well, it's an easy switch to make on a wild card, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool.
But Gabriel I do remember he did get quite a few decent attacking returns. Did he get like 4 or 5 goals last season?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, he was good, and he's very solid and nailed in that defence.
Yeah. We've kind of touched on this, so on to just some Twitter bits now. The fact that Guardiola came out and talked about Haaland, saying, he might have to rest him a bit, and part of the deal was him not playing so many minutes, and that was one reason why he went City over Real Madrid. I think this just comes down to the Community Shield and the why we're saying it, and it's right that it's so handy that fixture is there, because we all kind of, there's a high chance we're going to know what's going on. If he only plays a bit off the bench, it's probably a risk. But if he starts and does amazing, then it's going to be hard to go without him.
Yeah, I do think he'll be taken off a lot, around 70 minutes or so, especially if he's got a couple of goals. He's not. You think the reason why Salah and the likes of Salah and Kane are such amazing assets is, particularly with Salah, it's almost like Klopp can't substitute him because Salah always wants more goals.
Yeah.
Whereas with Haaland at City, and with his pecking order in that City team, and Guardiola having the status that he does at that club, if he wants to take Haaland off on 56 minutes because he feels like he's looking a little bit tired, he will. So, and Haaland won't be able to say anything about it. And I think it's funny to hear him say, this is why he chose us over Real Madrid. I fully expect to see Haaland trying to move to Real Madrid in 2 years' time. I think that will definitely happen. I just think that he is quite injury prone, just because of what we've said about him being so, such a specimen.
Yeah.
Again, I do think he'll have his minutes managed, which again is why I really want him for the start of the season, because I just think before the Champions League, I might not have him on wildcard, because I won't want that, because he's going to be just as rotated as the likes of Mahrez and Foden and Sterling and Grealish. And I just won't want the headache and the annoyance of, for 11.5 million. Imagine if he just doesn't show up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that just made me think, though, my anti-argument of me saying, 3 City's a bit risky, come game week 5, that is when they will start to rotate. So it could be that you do need to get in with 3, because that might be the only time in the season you're going to have 3 City. And if they get 4 wins in 4, you're not going to see as much rotation in that period. And can't say that about any other period.
No, true, which might again make me lean back, especially if they don't sign Cucurella. It might make me lean back towards starting with
Walker.
Yeah, exactly. So Kyle Sprinter. So I think I might well go back to that, because that's my alternative to having Ederson in goal, isn't it? It's I'm kind of covering all bases then.
Yeah.
And I can still have, my trio of Trent, Cancelo, and Robertson, and then the third City player as well.
And then the penultimate slide was just some good stuff from Saltop again, who did 2 optimised 11s, where it might be a bit difficult to see, but I don't know if you will, Nick. But yeah, the first of 10 starting 15s has got Salah and Haaland as the optimum 2 players for captain, 355 points. But in 4th on 352, only 3 points behind, is a squad with Salah, Haaland, and Kane. So it's just quite interesting, because on last week's episode, I think Rate My Team was telling me that your 3-mium was 25 points less effective in the first 4 weeks than a 2 premium, but this is suggesting for the first 6 weeks it's only 3 points different. So it's just amazing how different models have got different things. And also my 2 weren't optimized, but obviously Sertop, that's his bag. So he's got the perfect combination of all those players and others in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, because this is the point. Everyone's talking about freemium not being, it cannot possibly be the best approach because it's not
Captaining, you're not captaining a high proportion of your premiums.
Yes, which means that you're then not getting the best, kind of points per million or whatever, the best kind of value players across the team, because even those premium players, they're not as good value as a mid-priced pick. But captaincy is where they make it up. But I just think like we've been saying, for the first 4 or 5 game weeks, it might work out, it might not. But I can just see Kane getting 5 or 6 goals in the first 5 games, and I can see the same for Haaland, and that there might be a couple of hat tricks. There might be a hat trick for one of them, or hat trick each in those first 5 games as well. And I just think if you've got, now that these budget enablers have emerged, the likes of Bailey and Neto and Martinelli, it just allows you to do it without too many ugly looking compromises. It doesn't, to me, these teams don't scream of when people were trying to fit, I can't remember what it was a few seasons ago. Was it like 2 premiums where people would try and fit 2 in and it would make their team look disastrous?
Oh, right.
Or was it 3 at that point as well? I don't remember there ever being such a focus at the start of the season on 3 premiums versus 2. And I think it was because maybe when you tried for 3, it just made the rest of your team look absolutely awful.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe that was it. Whereas this season, it's a genuine conversation.
Right. We are at the end, I think.
Yeah, and you were much. I can just about see the timer down there at the bottom. You were much more on it. What did you say again?
127.
127.
So 131. But we've had a good half hour of behind the scenes technical issues, haven't we?
Technical issues, yeah. Indeed.
Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up, Nick?
Just in terms of, I guess if we just look at timing, so we're at Tuesday the 26th today. We've got the Community Shield this weekend coming. I'm then away for a couple of weeks. I wonder whether are you available next Monday, Shlee? We do a pod before I go. Kate will probably kill me for trying to pod the night before I go on holiday as well. So maybe I might do something on the Sunday or the Monday on my own if you're not available, just to sort of give a final update. My plan is, I don't think this will really work because actually I'll have some time on holiday, obviously, but my plan is to try and have my team pretty locked in.
Yeah.
By the time we go. I don't think I will because I'll be on the flight. I can look at my phone and whatever else. So listen to every episode of Correspondent Week and
yeah.
It's gotten to the point, Shlee, where my youngest, who turns 2 next week, he tells me to take my headphones out when he knows that I'm listening to something, and he's like, take those off. I'm like, all right, this is bad.
Oh, blimey. Yeah, that is bad. Well, he doesn't accept the excuse that you're listening about Brentford's left back, and that's really important.
No, he knows a lot of words, but he wouldn't understand Brentford's left back just yet.
Well, no, if we don't chat before, maybe have a good time, and see you on the other side. It'll be what game week? It would just be between 1 and 2 then. Game week 1 and 2, I think.
Well, that'll be back. Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking, imagine how fun that would be for me to try and not look at any of, play the Ultimate Match of the Day challenge and join the podcast not knowing.
Yeah, we should maybe try and do something like that. That'd be good. I mean, it's a shame we're both quite busy this weekend because me not to watch the Community Shield would be quite good as a bit of a pre-season scouting. But
that would be good. And did you say that you've got Fest tickets or you've got meetup tickets?
Yep, going to Fest. On my own, which will be good. But got in touch with FPL meets and stuff. They're doing like a pub trip before, and
nice.
As everyone keeps saying, it should be all right to go on your tour and meet people there. So that'd be good.
Well, I mean, I can't think of having a stronger thing in common with people than this. I mean, you could just launch straight into it. But I'm just absolutely gutted that I can't go with you because I'd love to go to one of those events. So hopefully I can come to the next one.
Yeah, that should be good. But that'd be good to go up together, see what happens.
Cool. All right.
Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the content, please give it a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back soon. Night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, Nick.